All right, in reading Public Administration Concepts and Cases, all right, at page 60, I've gotten as far as page 62. I've gone through one case and two essays, one by Woodrow Wilson and then Max Weber, whom Max Weber has some of the more interesting arguments that seem relatable to law enforcement, because law enforcement is a part of your bureaucracy, okay? How it's run and all that. There's definite departments. They all work to achieve a particular goal for that government. Okay, and reading Max Weber, there's a lot of dry parts. Okay, and you really have to wade through them to get to the good stuff. All right, and he makes some good points that really make me question how governments let the bureaucracy take over, okay, and serve their own objectives at the local citizens' expense, okay. And I question if that's the case for Cocal too, Cocal, Oregon. So there's some points here I'm going to try to interpret in my own words, okay, and it comes off of all of this. All right, I think that's it. The stricter the subordination under the arbitrary rule of the master, the more it guarantees the maintenance of the conventional signorial style of living for the official. The subordination, okay, you got to hold the people down so that you can maintain your rule, okay, and that's a bureaucracy. They can do that. That's in contrast to democracy, where it's for all people, okay. Anybody is supposed to be able to come and go in a ruling class in democracy, but in the bureaucracy, they hold their own positions. The nobility rises at the expense of the freeman. The more complicated and specialized our culture becomes, pretty much the bigger it gets, the more there's personal detachment, and people look at the situations objectively, unlike the old times when with the older structures, social structures, where people are moved by sympathy, favor, grace, gratitude. It's more cold-hearted how the complicated bureaucracies are run, and they're pretty complicated when you can separate the police from the finance department, from human resources, from utilities. You can separate all that stuff and make individual laws for each department, and it becomes you can't use like a grace, okay. It's not like back when times were more egalitarian. People talk about their love of communism, and I agree with that on the level of complication, okay. You read about Russian communism, and as the nation grew larger, it became more and more corrupt, because if you read the book, it's called The Tipping Point. They talk about how in smaller or groups, the people could trust each other more. They see each other on a daily basis. They can live a more egalitarian lifestyle. Everybody shares everything. But when there's just too many people, then you need to have more structure and more personally detached systems set up. Okay, but even then, it's not going to work out perfectly. Okay. The bureaucracy could be, or bureaucratization can be carried out for the purposes of politics, to support politics, or to support a capital interest. Like with Donald Trump, he's turning our bureaucracy. He calls it my administration. You've heard that many times now. My administration, my administration. We're going to work towards this. He's turning his administration. He's turning the country into what it was like in no, I want to say Denmark, but it's the country that pretty much was its own economy. It's like the whole economy was run by the country pretty much, and that seems to be the direction Donald Trump has taken it with his administration. Yeah, that's okay. Purely political or purely economic. Okay, I find this very interesting. This is a great quote. Democracy is opposed to the rule of bureaucracy in spite or because of its unavoidable yet unintended promotion of bureaucracy. Sometimes democracy creates obvious ruptures and blockages to the bureaucratic organization. So it's like people fighting cops. It's like you're fighting the bureaucracy of the law enforcement agency. Okay, they're a cold-hearted organization that's run by rules and all of that. It's just a bureaucracy. Okay, and it's not exactly perfect, but I mean they really can't change the way they're doing things. Unless if it's change that comes from political sources, because the bureaucracy, the people in bureaucracy or administrations, public administrations, are appointed by the elected leaders. The elected leaders are brought up from the people, okay, and then the elected leaders appoint the bureaucrats, okay. So, can anybody become a bureaucrat? That's not doesn't seem to be how it works. And Max Weber actually argues that why isn't because in the bureaucracy there's this guise of being indispensable of the officialdom. Okay, so you're indispensable. You're just doing your duty, serving the public, and you can be and people take over your position of power over time, either through ranking systems or just somebody retires or something. That's ranking. A lot of the bureaucracy or appointments, it's either you rise to power through the ranking, or if you're appointed. Like if a completely different political system came in, like Trump, nobody in the bureaucracy was safe from his taking over. Okay, nobody was going up in rank after the Republicans took over the House. Instead, Trump pretty much appointed a lot of people, but apparently there's a lot of unfilled positions. But why can't anybody, if it's just indispensable? And you see in our federal government how people are coming and going. That keeps up with the theme of being indispensable in the democracy. In a bureaucracy, they don't care for that. So they don't care for being indispensable, and that's what kind of keeps the separation of powers. Why can't a slave hold a position of power if everybody's indispensable? Okay. So the power positions can be overtowering at times. Okay. And it seems like with all these rules and regulations, the politician is at odds with the bureaucrats, because there's all these rules and stuff in place that the politician has to deal with, and the bureaucrat is the experts, okay, and they're the ones telling you, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, because that's the rules, telling the politicians that, and that kind of holds the politicians down. And that's what makes me question for Coastal Oregon. You know, they got all these crazy rules, and they're overstretching the rules. They're lying. They're stretching the rules. They're stretching the law. They stretched it with me just on having my car hood up, and I'm thinking they're probably doing the same thing to the politicians too. You go to any city council meeting, you see how confused. I watched how confused the mayor was. Oh, do I bang the gavel now? It's like she didn't really know. She was trying to follow the rules, the bureaucratic rules. She was at the mercy of the bureaucrats. She didn't know what to do. It doesn't look very good for the politics of that. Why even have a mayor? You know, it's just in name only. All right, it's because the pure bureaucracy is so overtowering there, and they're at odds. And so you can't, as a politician, you can't do everything though. So you do need to have a democracy, and that's why it says that democracy is opposed to bureaucracy, but democracy still needs some level of bureaucracy to help the government function. At least we need people to set up appointments, to get the roads built, to get certain structures made, and all that stuff around the city. Okay, the politicians can't do it all. All right, so it's interesting to see like how certain bureaucracies take hold and power, and they can push themselves too far. You could see an imbalance, and I think Coastal is a great example.